Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, I have Andrea Lynn.
Yes.
How are you?
Good.
I had to search for it for a second. We were just talking about spirituality and totally blew me away. But go ahead and talk to the audience and let them know a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Yeah, I'm Andrea Lynn, and I am the host of Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea Lynn, and I bring stories of tragedy to triumph. These are a lot of stories of people sharing the resiliency that they have from all the different life circumstances that they've gone through.
That's awesome. So it's a lot of people that overcome the odds, whether it be physical, mental.
Exactly. In very extreme ways, though. I try to bring the most extreme situations so that people can see this as, wow, if they could do that, then I can do this simple task that I have. But I also know that comparing ourselves to others is not what we need psychologically to get over something, but it's just a little bit of encouragement.
I kind of really want to talk about spirituality. So I'm very spiritual, and my girlfriend's very spiritual. We were talking offline a little bit about medians, and I have two medians that I go to, one more than the other. But I think, well, I know that and I've seen a lot of stuff, that we're starting to get into raising our vibration level as human beings, understanding that we've been programmed at a very young age. We understand that, and this is me, but we understand that our childhood, we picked our parents,
right?
We picked our lives. I picked the way I am. I have to be happy with the way I am, right? I picked everything about myself long ago before I reincarnated into this earth, or onto this earth. And then with that, there is lessons to be learned, and you have to, because we don't remember the lessons when we come here and get incarnated, right? So we kind of wander this earth trying to do and try different things. And I've come across a lot of people that are just lost.
Yeah.
A lot of people that maybe, we had some people on that talk about identity and different stuff. But when you start getting into spirituality, and if it's not for everybody.
Right.
And once you get into spirituality, this is my own feelings, but once you get into spirituality, you're going to feel and see things that you didn't really expect. And
you will experience life in a different way.
And it's something that you may not want, is what I can really say. Because before I was into spirituality and had questions and seeked the answers, I was a way different person. And I don't necessarily recommend it for everybody. And what I mean by that is so I do sales, and obviously I run a podcast, right? So I can feel other people's energy. I can feel, and I don't think I have any special gifts, anywhere near the gifts that I'm sure that you have. But I can feel energy. I can feel when things aren't right.
What do you feel right now?
Calm.
Tell everybody.
But what I'm saying to you is I go out on sales appointments, I can feel, and I can feel different stuff, and sometimes it makes you unexcited.
Yes.
And you'll go through this period in which I kind of am right now, where it's kind of just quiet. It's just sorry, I'm probably taking up a lot of interview time, but you go through this period where it's just you try to find yourself, and it's very quiet, and it's a lot of things that used to interest you don't interest you anymore. For me, it's very hard for me to understand what's real and what's not real. So a lot of times something could be happening, and in a flash in my head, I'm thinking to myself, is this really happening? Am I sitting here with you right now, talking to you, or is this fake in my head, something that I'm thinking about? And I go through this thing of understanding not only myself and my surroundings and other people's energy. And it's a whole different level than somebody being like, well, my grandmother passed away and I want to contact my grandmother. So I go talk to somebody that's a medium, or I've lost my way, which I've done a couple of times. I'm like, hey, like, I want some answers. Like, what is the spirit world telling me? Like, crossing the veil, like, what does spirit want to tell me? That's what I always end up. That's my last question every time I speak with my medium. Is there something that spirit wants to tell me? And then I got involved with spirituality because I wanted to know more about death. Like, where do we go? Like, I know it's like a lot of this whole, like, you go into the light and all this other stuff. What, and I know you have gifts more than I do, but like, tell me a little bit about what people come to you about, what kind of stuff that people are expecting. Cause I know, but like, I know the audience probably doesn't know, but like, what is it that you've kind of seen from other people that they want answers for, or reasons to get into spirituality, or reasons to speak to a psychic medium? Like, and I'm not talking about the ones that are like, you go into like an empty house and they tell you some random stuff like you're gonna be, the world's best looking man and on the cover of, whatever magazine, right? Like real stuff.
I don't do that too much anymore. I don't practice mediumship for money per se, but it does happen to come up. I actually was filming an episode one time and I had to tell she was talking about this book she wrote, and I said, there's a recipe in this book. There's something of like some sort of lemon recipe. This is from your sister. And she didn't know I was gifted. And she was like, oh, yeah, that's true. And she just kept going. And I was like, she's not wondering how I knew this, but okay. And then towards the end, I was like, oh, by the way, like I keep hearing something about you forgot to wear your necklace today. And she's like, that's so funny. Yeah, I did. And that was it. Like she never thought anything of it. So sometimes it sneaks in, but I don't try to use it now. I mean, I have friends still that come to me with certain things where they're struggling with something. And so they ask for some sort of reading if they want to connect with a loved one, or they just need some sort of guidance. Because I think people sometimes get to this place where they just have way too many things going on and they themselves cannot quiet their mind to hear the answers, which I always tell people that's the first thing you do is give yourself that quiet time so you can actually allow for answers to come to you. But then they come to me and they're asking for me to tell them what they need to know or what they need to hear. And like we were talking beforehand, I'm very religious when it comes to this, where I don't want to take over God's job. So if there's a path they're meant to walk down, I'm not going to say something to prevent them from learning their lesson. Because like you were saying, I also believe that we are put here on this earth to walk through a certain journey, and our souls are meant to fully evolve by the time of our death. And sometimes they don't, and sometimes they do. If we don't walk through all those experiences we're meant to walk through. And so sometimes I think that can interfere with that. But that's where when I'm giving channeled information, if you will, I just ask that it be whatever God wants them to hear. And then sometimes they're not getting what they want, but I tell them you're not meant to hear it then. I'm sorry. So
yeah, it's happened to me a couple of times. I've asked questions and it was like, you're not prepared for that right now. I saw a cartoon that was really interesting where, like that person wanted something, like I want something. So then I'd be like, okay, well, I want X, whatever it is. And I'm not talking about like a Lamborghini, right? I'm talking about like, I want something to happen in my life. And the cartoon was really, really good where it's like, okay, well, great. Like I'll give it to you. Bam. Right. The universe gave it to that person. Like whatever I wanted, bam, I got it. And then like the person in the cartoon, like turned around and like all the people that they knew, like dissolved. And there's like all the stuff that they not had like personal stuff, but like it dissolved too. And there was like, wait a second, like I wanted a really successful podcast and all this stuff. And then now, like, you took it all away, and now all I got is the podcast. And they're like, well, like, in order for you to grow,
Yeah.
all that stuff needed to be gone because it was
Hmm.
stopping you from getting to your next thing
Yeah.
and your next ascension.
I actually was just talking about this with some guests I just filmed with from the Texas flood who lost their daughter. And we were talking about kind of unanswered prayers or just having your prayers answered, but in a different way than you expected. And I think that's where people need to, and they talked about this a lot too, surrender. You really do have to surrender and let and trust that whatever is meant to come for you will. So when you say that prayer, understand and believe it will be heard and it will be answered, but it might not be what you want, right? Like, I want $1 million in my bank account by the end of next year. That may not happen, right? But all the other things that are meant to happen for you, they will.
I think the biggest thing, especially when you brought that up, is like somebody losing a loved one.
Yeah.
So you lose a loved one, and then the first question you have, especially I'm Christian, and we just talked about Christianity, is you ask why.
Yeah.
Right, and it's a open-ended question that never gets resolved. Why did this happen? Why did you take this person from me? Why is this happening now?
Mm-hmm.
All the whys, and then you get. I think men is different than women, but you get angry, right? And we talked about this in church. I don't want to get too into it, but you get angry and at source or God or whoever it is that you worship, Buddha, whatever it is, and you ask yourself why. Like, why did this happen? And why is it now? What is all this going on? And it's just like you feel like not only somebody missing, like your heart's missing or broken or whatever it is that you have to look inside and you have to, like I'm going through some struggles now, and it's like some days I get angry, but a lot of times I'm just like, why is this happening? A, what is this teaching me? B,
Mm-hmm.
and then C, I should be grateful that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because I even saw a thing like a Instagram where this guy talked about where he was like, imagine you're in this dream and like everything that you ever wanted comes true. Like you're going through life and like you get the car, you get the girl, you get the house, you get this, you get that. Like everything's perfect. Like whatever you want, you just get it, you know? And then imagine how boring that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like waking up and being like, oh, like I want a perfect steak. And you're like, bam, perfect steak.
We naturally as humans, we feel good when we have to work for something and then we accomplish it. There's no accomplishment if you snap your fingers and everything's there.
And then you just get bored. And he's like, well, imagine this now. Imagine that you're a knight and you have to save the girl of your dreams in the tower from a dragon. How cool would that be? That would be tough, right? And he's like, yeah. Okay, well, imagine you're doing this or that or this or that and that, and you just add kind of some stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, that's life.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I was like, exactly. Like, that's exactly what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, yeah, all these tough things are happening is because, like, if it wasn't happening, I would just be bored.
They also, that's part of like quantum leaping too, that when we're going to go jump to the next level, everything kind of has to disassemble to reassemble. It doesn't just like stack on to your old problems. Everything kind of falls apart, or so it feels. And then slowly the parts to the next level start coming in, and then everything rebuilds itself.
And then I would watch a lot of different Instagram stuff. And one of the things that this fighter said was that if I want to fight a particular fighter and that fighter is bigger than me or whatever it is, whatever their skill set is that I don't have, I have to kill the old person in order to build the new person. And that's what the coach would say to him. Like instead of him doing his normal workout, he'd be running hills up and down the thing until he couldn't do it anymore. He was breaking his body down to build a new body to fight that person. Yeah. And I was like, that means like a lot because
you want to train your brain to start experiencing things in a different way. I had an episode with a guy that I'm trying to remember. I think it was a stroke situation, but he he ended up needing to retrain his brain just to function and to be balanced and all that. And so he would push himself through things that he hadn't done before, but he would push himself so that the neurons in his brain would have to fire in a different way than they ever have before.
Yeah, just like overcoming the odds is, whether it be a business thing, whether it be a physical thing, a mental thing, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Like, it's all the same thing. You have to rebuild yourself by breaking yourself down.
Yeah. And the other thing when you're talking about this mental stuff, my favorite thing that I always talk about is understanding that your perception of things creates your reality.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think everybody would know this by now, but they don't. And some people think, well, there's certain things out of my control, and nothing is out of your control at all. Every single situation that you are in and you experience, you completely have control over how you're going to choose to feel about that.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I'm going through right now is like when you start to care too much about what's going on with your outside sphere and not you, and you're not taking care of yourself, but you're more worried about what's going on outside. And outside of that sphere is people doing their own journey.
Yeah.
So they're experiencing their own thing. And you can kind of try to get them to stay in a lane and not hit the guardrails kind of deal. But at the same time, like, they're going through their own thing. Mm-hmm. And like, you can only say so much and you can only do so much because, I mean, that's just kind of how it is. Like, we were talking about brotherhoods and stuff like that, and Christianity, brotherhood, and, you know, a lot of the stuff that I got into, if I was in the correct brotherhood, it would be a lot easier that somebody would be like, hey, bro, you need to stop doing that. Or, hey, bro, like, we don't do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I would have been like, oh, like, you mean to tell me, like, you guys don't do that? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. And there isn't really a whole lot of that anymore. It's more of a lot of people just going to social media. A lot of people going maybe like ChatGPT and just like listening to whatever. Mm-hmm. We were just talking about like health. Mm-hmm. You know, like you can read one day, we were talking about rice, right? Like you read one day, like brown rice is really good for you, right? And then tomorrow you open up the internet and it's like, white rice is the new trend. Like, come eat some white rice. And you're like, well, wait a second. Like, what happened 24 hours ago? I mean, it's crazy now.
Well, I have to say, when it comes to the body, just because I've suffered with so many different health things, I 100% believe you have to do what's right for you and what you feel works for you, because one person could eat avocados and the other person can't. Even though it's supposed to be a very healthy fat and it's good for you, it may not be good for everybody. And I think that's just the case with every single thing that we put inside of our bodies. What works for one does not work for others. But what you were saying before, I was thinking about how it's really important for people to be objective thinkers. That's one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Because if you're trying to decide that emotion that you're going to attach to an event, you want to be objective about it, because when you're not objective, you're pulling in all these emotions, and that's not really rational, and it's not really real either, right? Because what are emotions? They're choices. Mm-hmm. They're feelings that we have created from stimuli that has come at us in different scenarios, and then that goes back to the whole thing of, you know, childhood traumas and being wired as a child to experience things in a certain way. Our first experiences with happiness or sadness or whatever it is, we experience those as children, and we get wired as children. Then how will I experience happiness when I'm 20, 30, 40? It's how I experienced it for the first time as a child. And so if you didn't experience it well as a child, you'll continue that throughout life. So it's really important to go back and rewire those emotions. But like I said, be an objective thinker, because then when somebody comes at you with something that is bothersome to you, you can think about it objectively, like, okay, what do they actually say? Because sometimes people hear things in such a different way than it was really even meant or delivered, and just take the words for exactly what they are. People will say something that's like, well, she said I was mean, or she said I was, and it's like, did she actually say that? And then people say, well, no, but blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, like the best thing you can do for yourself is be an objective thinker, because then you won't get so triggered.
Yeah, it's also like a lot of feelings too. So, you know, like my girlfriend could say something bad and it would hurt me more than you being like saying the same thing to me, or the way she delivers something to me could be very sharp compared to something that you say to me, and I'd be like, okay, whatever, right? It's
Mhm.
just, it's also like the ties to whoever's saying it
Mhm.
too. Um, I had to rewire my brain, and I'm still in the rewire stage, but I go to therapy, and it's really opened up my eyes to childhood trauma, and then the not being able to get over it for a
Mhm.
long period of time, like holding it and resenting, like a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff. And I think I watched this Alex Hormozy like short, and he was like, "Look, like I had a bad childhood too. Everybody had bad childhoods. Like he's like the thing that stopped me was like thinking about that." And he's like, and then one day in high school, I was like, look, like everybody had bad childhoods. We all had trauma. Like, cool, let's move on. Like now I'm
Yeah.
an adult. Like now I'm 18. I can go do whatever I want.
Mhm.
And he was like, it just propelled him. He just shut the door basically and was like, look, I'm not gonna think about it anymore. Yeah, it sucked. Cool. Like I'm over it now. Now I got the new stage.
Mhm.
And then he just ran with it.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a lot of other people are kind of still stuck in, whatever happened in their childhood, which I
Mhm.
think is really cool.
Yeah, a lot
Uh,
of people hang on to stuff for sure. I think you
mm-hmm.
see that with a lot of people where their lives are just always the same. And
Loops.
yeah, I mean, and that's what I try to deliver too with my podcast is helping people get out of the loops
Loops.
for sure. Because people just sometimes say, oh, well, I was just dealt these cards and this just is what it is.
Woe is me.
Yeah, that's not true.
The loop thing is crazy. My sister's stuck in a loop, and I can't get her out.
Can't get it.
I'm being really, really honest.
Oh no.
Yeah, my mother passed away, and just so the
I'm
audience
sorry.
knows, so like, thank you. She passed away a couple years ago, and she's stuck in a loop, and she's like, she lives in my mom's house or
Yeah.
our house back then. She drives her car. Like, there's no way for her to like
Mm-hmm.
get away or grieve from it or do anything. It's like it's always there. It's like it's a constant loop.
That's her choice. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's her choice to live there and do
Yeah.
and have that car or whatever. And it's like it's a weird.
But
It's a
maybe is she happy? I don't know. I always, we often judge people's situations, and then I'm
outside
like,
looking
yeah,
in.
I'm like, maybe they're happy.
Mhm.
That wouldn't be a loop I'd want to be on, but for others, maybe it is.
It's a good loop for her. Or maybe it
Maybe
works
it
for her
is.
now or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Talk a little bit more about the podcast. I know I talked a lot about spirituality because I love talking about spirituality because there's so much to know and learn. I feel like
Yeah.
that it's just really out there and it's really beneficial. But talk a little bit more about your podcast. People that maybe could guest. I have actually a guest I'm going to turn you on to when we get off of here. She's going to be in Dallas soon. But talk to me a little bit more about the guest, like in terms of kind of like what you've learned, kind of what you've seen, things that guests come on, and like I learned a lot about guests and different stuff by
Hmm.
having them on. Like, what have you kind of seen and learned from?
Yeah. With every single guest, they actually have a different way of handling their situation
Hmm.
and how they've gotten out of their tragedy. And it's pretty miraculous to see how everybody deals with it. But I will say there seems to be a pretty common denominator with most of them. It's faith. They all have had a lot of faith. I had one guy that was buried alive in an avalanche, and his story is just one I'll never forget. And the
Wow.
doctors wanted to pull the plug, but his family had so much faith. They were like, no, we're not doing this. We're going to pray over him. We're going to call people. We're going to send out a prayer chain. People are going to come in. They brought friends in praying over his body and everything. And he made it. And he was in a coma for 41 days.
Wow.
But faith is a huge thing. And just having that faith, understanding, and love in your life can really change things for you.
I'll tell a personal story and then we'll get out of here. So speaking about faith, so I was sick for a month, 30 days, and I think this guy gave me the evil eye. Like me and my girlfriend were at this restaurant, and this guy was staring hard, and I was like, this guy is like staring a hole through me, and like I could just feel like the
Yeah.
negative energy.
Mm.
And I was sick for a month, like 30 days. I was on on the
Yeah.
couch, dying. I couldn't talk. Like it was just very hard for me to talk. I started getting fluid in my lungs. I was sick. I had walking pneumonia and some sort of flu. Anyway, so I got really sick, and which sucks for my business because people would call me and be like, "Hey, Chris, I want to go see like 123 Main." It was freezing outside too,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd be like, "I can't," and I'd be like, why can't you text message me, right? And then like, no, I want to talk to you in person, right? And I was just like, it was so bad.
Like, no, really, I am sick.
Yeah, like I'm dying. So I was on the emergency room table, like they wanted to call the ambulance. It was like a bad scene. Um, and then I made some phone calls to some family members that are very, very big in faith and prayers. And I called this a friend of mine, and his wife there's like a prayer group at her church. And yeah, like the next day, it's like I started feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was taking meds, I was doing shots, I was like going to the emergency room like every other night. Like I was dying, and like it was just like, and I just knew that it was faith.
Yeah.
And like,
So you think that guy was pushing some bad energy into you? Yeah.
I just knew it. Like I was there, and I was like, like babe, let's get out of here. Like this guy's like staring a hole through me. It was bad weather. It was like rainy and cold out, and like he was just like throwing his eyes at me like the whole time. Not even like mean mugging, like he's gonna like kill me, but just like just throwing bad energy at me. And I was like, oh man, like let's just get out of here. And yeah, I was just sick. And I was just like, and nobody can figure out. I did like all.
I had an experience like that, and I had to, after like being in this room and space with this guy, I jumped into my car, and I carry in my purse frankincense and myrrh because that seems to get rid of bad energy. And I was rubbing it all over my arms. I went home. I jumped in the shower. I was just like, cleanse.
Yeah, get that energy off you. Andrea, if somebody wanted to jump on your podcast or had some questions for you or wanted to talk spirituality, where would they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. It's Andrea Lynn Intuitive on Instagram. And then my email is just andrealynnintuitive@gmail.com.
Andrea, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Like I could go on and on about those stories.
Oh, spirituality, dude. That was like the tip of the iceberg.
Oh my God.
I've had all kinds of